Hey y'all, what's up? I just want to give a shout out to Petty Tupac TV. Make sure you go smash, like, and don't forget to subscribe. For real, for real.
So if you can you please introduce yourself to us? Let us know where you from and your name.
Okay, my name Lil Marty, or AKA Eastside Polow. Uh, I'm from Chicago and Detroit. My mother's from Chicago. My daddy's from Detroit. So I was back and forth my early years a little bit between Detroit and Chicago. But I ended up moving to Detroit when I was 14 permanently on the east side off East Jefferson. You know what I'm saying? Jefferson and Holcomb to be exact. And that's where we'll get to the Erie Adams part of the story starts to a certain degree because Erie is from that same park. We used to call it Memorial Park. It's been changed from Irma Henderson Park or whatever. You know, it's right across from the McDonald's. And then I went to King High School. You know what I mean? So that's like the start of it or whatever. You know what I mean? When I went to King as a freshman. You know what I mean? You know, I met the guys from my neighborhood or whatever, and then one thing led to another.
Mm-hmm.
But just backing the story up a little bit, I'm from Chicago. I'm from 39th Street. That's the original C-Note gangster. I'm a gangster disciple from that part of my life. You get what I'm saying? So that's where it started. My whole family, we all GDs from over there off 39th Street, original C-Note gangster. You know what I'm saying? I grew up with, you heard the rap, I don't know if you heard this rap girl. Her name is Katie Got Bands. She's supposed to be like the queen of drill music.
I heard of her.
Okay. Well, her family and my family is real close, and I'm talking about her, the OGs from her family and stuff. And you know, that's where we all started at Nada B. Wells Projects over there.
Can you explain to what do you mean by Cino gangster? Is you talk CINO?
C dash note NOTE. And
Okay.
then we was like every GD set had like little labels that like let them know what hood they from. And C note is where we from. That like recognize our set. You get what I'm saying or whatever. Like some people understand globally. So it stands for $100 bill getters. We about getting money. You know what I mean? We was some GDs who was getting money back then. You know what I mean? So
When you was in Chicago, what was that? The 80s or 90s or what?
I was in the 80s.
Was it considered real back then? Like more?
Benji got killed by some GDs. You know what I'm saying? Ben was number one basketball player in the country at the same school my brother went to at the time, Simeon. So yeah, it's been real since the beginning.
Okay. What's the noticeable difference between Chicago and Detroit when you came here? What was like? Damn, it's totally different in the world. Was it the same?
Okay, it was totally different in a lot of ways. You're right. And I compared to Los Angeles and Oakland. Okay, in Los Angeles they got a lot of gang banging and gangs and stuff. That's what Chicago is. You get what I'm saying? Oakland is a lot of players and hustlers and money. Get ain't that many gangs out there. That's how Detroit was at that time. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? They had cliques like YBI, the Pony Boys, and all that type of stuff, but it wasn't a lot of gang banging. The Earl Flynn's and the different ones, you know, the BKs and the different ones, they wasn't really popping like that. You know what I mean? They wasn't big like the Chicago gangs. Chicago gangs got structure. You know, you got, like I said, you got years and years of, of knowing who, like, how can I put this? Like, you got years and years of like running, being in a. They consider more of a mob than a gang. If you understand what I'm saying, so you know who is what and this that. And like in Chicago, before you touch somebody back then, you had to run a check. You had to make sure that like who is this guy that you touch and make sure that his family ain't this, that, the other, or his people. You know what I mean? You had to really get approval. You couldn't just do shit on your own. In Detroit back then, you could do what you want on your own. It wasn't nobody you had to check in with or whatever to make sure that your family was going to be straight if you got caught up or this, that, and other. Yeah, his family might retaliate, but I'm talking about a whole gang trying to retaliate. That's the difference. You know what I mean?
Oh, okay, okay, I get it.
And
Uh,
I grew up close to where Jeff Fort's main fort was, who was a peace stone.
have you ever seen Jeff Ford?
Nope.
Let, let me ask you this: what do you think about Jeff Ford? I know he indicted for like terroristic. Was he really a pillar in the community, or you seen he got the money from the government, misused it? What's your take on him? Was he really for the people, or was he out for self? Like, what's real?
I think he was out for his mob. I'm not gonna say he was out for the people. I can't really say because I'm from the opposite mob, so I don't know. But from the outside looking in, He looked out for his people. All his people was prosperous. They was getting money and this type of stuff back then. We was known, the GDs, we weren't really getting that much money back then. We was known for more being like, we had the numbers and, terrorizing, but not on the level that they was on. You get what I'm saying? So he was on some, and then this some people don't know. And this is what I learned later on. My big cousin schooled me to this. The GDs, the BDs, all these gangs, they was all one gang at one time. The P Stones, they was all up under Jeff Ford. He had a gang called Main 21, where he had the 21 main gangs from Chicago, all, you can Google this, all in one clique. It just so happened that David Barksdale, King Shorty, and Larry Hoover broke off from that and started their own shit, which became the Black Disciple, the Black Gangster Disciples. That's originally what the name was. You get what I'm saying? It's changed to the BDs and the GDs now, but it's really Black Gangster Disciple. You know what I'm saying? That's the origin of it. And
What
then
made? Go ahead. Go. Oh no. Go ahead.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Then when David died, King Shorty, who's the leader of the BDs, chief of the BDs, and King Hoover, who's the chief of the GDs, they couldn't get along, and that's where the separation came in. So that's where it been from BGD to just BDs and GDs. You get what I'm saying? That's where the split happened.
What made 7-4 Gangster? What made them grow and be so prosperous as far as numbers, opposed to Vice Lords and P Stones? Like GDs everywhere, but you ain't gonna find P Stones everywhere. You know what I'm saying? Or even on the prison yard, not gonna be a whole bunch of them, but it's a whole bunch of GDs. What happened? What's the difference? Y'all had rappers or what?
No, we outnumbered them greatly. I mean, we had way more numbers than them. So naturally, with migration and spread, we would probably spread more than them. You know what I'm saying? They was more organized than us. You know what I mean? Then you got to think the P Stones in California that blood set is a spinoff from them. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So they did spread. You know what I mean? One of the biggest blood sets in Cali, which was formed by a guy named T. Rogers, who's original P Stone from Chicago. You get what I'm saying? And got permission from Jeff to start that out there and all that type of stuff. You know what I mean? So that's, like I said, I just think it was more of us and more of us spread out, like going to college, different things like that. Because you got to remember, it's GDs who's in schools, GDs who never went to school. It's all types of GDs and P Stones. So what happens is, say you go to college, you go to some little city like Columbus, Ohio. You see how sweet it is. You come back and tell your family, like, hey, man, it's sweet up there. We need to get up there. We need to do this, that, and other because it's good up there. And then that's where we come in at. All us start going up there. You know what I mean? And then, because like I said, when I left Detroit at 16, not like left, but I'm talking about I started going to Ohio to make my money. You get what I'm saying? Columbus. And like I said, I've been locked up there, so all this shit is documented. We had the whole Columbus, Detroit boys had the whole Columbus on lockdown. But guess what happened when I got there? I ran into Chicago cats who had Heron, some GD Chicago cats who had Heron who was up there already too. And I just seen already, like, man, guys from these type of cities, they travel, you know what I mean? Like Meese did basically with BMF, you know what I mean? Anywhere we go, once we get this tool list from where we from, it puts us light years ahead of where we going. They not moving like us. See, we go against black people. It's black on black. Everything we do, we have to do against each other. You know what I'm saying? These other cities, they go to school with Chinese and Mexicans and this stuff, and they can't be as sharp as us because they're not going against the best of the best. When we go to school, we going against each other. So that's like giving us, we start off at a young age. You know what I mean? Ain't nobody like us. I'm just being real. So, like I said, that gives us an advantage when we go to other places because it's like, man, the numbers, they population, like that's a predominantly black city. The south side of Chicago is predominantly black. Just certain neighborhoods, New York, maybe in Brooklyn or somewhere where it's a lot of black people, wherever, in Atlanta, wherever we go, where it's a bunch of black people, they're going to be sharper than black people that grew up with all other races because they have it easier than what we have it. You know what I mean? Like I'm out here on the West Coast now, they got jobs everywhere. There's no opportunity like that in Michigan. I mean, it's jobs everywhere. I'm talking about you could start off making $1,500 a week doing nothing, just working at a hotel, cleaning up or some shit. I'm just talking about this how good they treat. I'm like, man, I can see how they putting the squeeze on my community. I can see how we not getting the opportunity to make no choice but the choice that we make a lot of times. You know what I'm saying? Because of the situation we in. But I'm gonna tell you this. This is why I became a Mo. I was talking to a guy, and he was like, "Man, I'm gonna tell you something." He was like, "If you want to study somebody's great, don't study them. study what they study. You see what I'm saying? So I had a lot of respect for Jeff Ford. And I knew a lot of his teachings came from the science. So I looked at it from a scientific point of view, nationality and all this. I'm like, man, I'm going to go in there and see what they teach. And if you apply the science to life, life becomes easy. The prophet laid it down. It's just a lot of people don't know how to apply it. But he laid it down. Peace be on the Noble Drew Ali and the forerunner Marcus Garvey. You know what I mean? Like I said, this is so when I learned them teachings, I was like, wow. You know what I mean? You know, when I got to Jules and the 101s and all that type of stuff and start studying that stuff, and I studied it different because I had been in the streets or growing up around street stuff my whole life, and my family was in the streets too. So I studied it different than a lot of people. I really knew that this was something I wanted to understand what was going on. I liked how they rotate. When I was in the feds, when we had our meetings or whatever, everybody got a chance to speak. It was no big eyes and little U's. Even though this guy might be the elected Grand Sheik, if you got something you want to expound on today, bro, go ahead and expound on that. Share that knowledge with us. You know what I mean? And that's what I really grabbed. Like, I was like, wow, this is deep. Everybody get to, get to rotate and get up here if they want to say something, just different things like that. But I'm going to tell you, the science is real important. And like I said, if you notice a lot of people in Detroit, which I didn't know until after that, all the greats, almost all of them were scientists too. Almost all of them was small. So I'm like, man, you know what I mean? Then when I started doing the research and found out that the nation and the 5%ers and all this is the sons of the moles, I'm like, man, whoa, this is deep. So the people that I respect is speaking good or whatever, even on the other end, that they trace back to that. I'm talking about Malcolm X and different people like that. You know what I'm saying? So just doing my research and, understanding different things. You know what I mean? So, like I said, I would tell anybody, you know what I mean? If you apply science to life, and that's what it is, the numbers and all that type of stuff and the science of it, it becomes easy.
Okay. I'm going to expound on that later on. You got into it, but yeah, everything you said, all facts. I want to backtrack a little bit. Just I want to touch on Chicago a little. Okay. Did T. Rogers have a name in Chicago when you was growing up?
No.
Because people say he got ran out or something.
No, I don't know about that. I don't really believe that. And I'm going to tell you why. Even though he didn't have a name, I'm sure the Stones knew him, Jeff Ford, them, his people. But I'm going to say why I don't believe he got ran out of Chicago. Because Jeff Ford openly said he could start what he started out there on the West Coast, one. And two, when he got out there, he had a fight with Tookie Stokes, who was way bigger than him, which earned him a lot of respect from the people who decided to run behind him. You get what I'm saying? So for him not to run for Tookie, this old muscle-bound, weightlifting type of guy, you know what I'm saying? That shows, some type of level, and I don't think he could have held down the jungle and had that type of respect and all that type of stuff. You know what I mean? Like I said, I don't think he got ran up out of there. You know what I'm saying? I think he just moved. Like me, I'm going to tell you, I got tricked out of Chicago. And I'm going to explain to you how I got tricked out of Chicago. My mother knew I was heavy into what I was into. So she had got on drugs real bad. And she wanted to, like, I guess, save me or whatever, or this, that, and other. So she told me, hey, man, you got to go up to Detroit to visit your father and your grandparents and all them up there. You know what I mean? You go every summer. It's time for you to go up there. So I'm like, okay. I didn't really want to go. But I'm like, okay, I'll go. So I go up there. And when it's time to go back to school, I'm sitting down with my grandma eating. And I'm like, man, okay, I'm not even interested in school, but I'm playing. I'm like, hey, grandma, school starts in a couple of days. So when am I going back to Chicago? And she was like, you don't know? Your mother didn't tell you? I'm like, tell me what? She was like, you no longer live in Chicago. You live in Detroit now. You live with us. Your mother, the project house that y'all had in the projects, that's gone. She got evicted. You know what I mean? She's not even in Chicago right now. She's in New Jersey, your mother. You know what I mean? And so I'm like, wow. My whole life changed right before my face. I'm stuck in Detroit. I'm 14 years old. And in Chicago, I'm somebody. You get what I'm saying? I'm really somebody. But now I'm on the east side of Detroit, staying with my grandparents. My brother and them stay on the west side. I'm like, man, this is... And then when I go to high school, I end up in one of the worst high schools in Detroit. And don't know nobody. You know how that is going to school. I don't know not one person in the school. So I'm like, wow. But I grew up in Chicago and it's rough and this, that, and other, and I know how to move. When I go to school, kids in Detroit, they got on silk shirts and Calvin Klein jeans and Bally shoes and alligator briefcases. I'm from Chicago. All we wore was starter jackets and Levi's and some Nikes. So to them, I'm a bum. But that's good because the bums don't get no attention. I don't need no attention right now. I need to figure out my way, how I'm gonna make it. You know what I'm saying? Because they got 2020, which was in my school, and man, I seen them the first day beat the shit out of motherfucker, beat them. No guards, nobody, saved them or whatever. You know what I mean? So I'm seeing that this is not a joke. You know what I mean? But I'm trying to figure it out. So coming in, not being the flyest guy, kind of going up under the radar. You know what I mean? But then I could play basketball in the park. It was right across the street from my grandma's house. I started playing at the park with the guys from the neighborhood from East Jefferson. And they kind of slowly started to take a liking to me. And that's how I got in and started going to school with them and this, that, and other. And the rest was history after that.
What age did you jump off the porch?
12.
Damn, 12?
But see, you gotta understand something. My whole family was GDs. So I was already banging GDs since I've been 7, 8 years old. Even though I wasn't really official, I was already knew this is what I was gonna do. In Chicago, I already knew I was gonna be a GD. Everybody in the family, I can't wait till I'm an official GD. And that's how the Cino started. They started because there was so many young niggas that wanted to be GDs, basically, that the nigga who was calling shots over there, the brother who was calling shots over there, was like, I'm gonna start another clique. We the Pico gang. Y'all can't be Pico gang. Y'all gonna be the Cino gangsters.
Mm-hmm.
And then most of them end up being crackheads and dope fiends, a lot of the Pico gang. So now if you know anything about 39, you only hear about the Cinos. But it originally started with the Picos. You get what I'm saying? And then the Cinos was the little brothers to them.
I gotta ask you this because you're from Chicago. Growing up, did you try Sherm?
Hell no. Wasn't no water around my hood growing up.
Oh, okay. Because
I'm saying wasn't no water.
I be seeing memes of like the Vice Lords or whatever, and they be like, I know a Vice Lord when I see one. They got the Sherm stick right there or whatever. They got
them. I'm gonna tell you, there wasn't a lot of Vice Lords around either. So that might be some out west shit, because the west side is like another whole city from the south side. It's sort of like the east side and the west side of Detroit. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? Like a lot of people from the west don't hang on the east, and a lot of people from the east don't hang on the west. You know what I mean? That's just how it is. Exactly. It's changing now with the rappers and shit. But when I grew up, it was a lot of static from both sides,
When you was in Detroit, when did you start to get in the streets and start hustling?
I was going to King. My daddy owned a car wash out on 8 Mile. You know what I'm saying? And so everybody, all the young guys was coming in there with 4Runners and Cherokees and all types of cars. You start seeing that shit. And you start like, damn, I want to do this. Fuck washing these cars for my dad at his hand car wash or whatever. I want to do that. So I started meeting different guys. And I met a guy from 8 Mile who had a spot over there on the east side because his cousin was from the east side and he needed some workers. So I was like, look, man, I'll get you some work. I went to school. I was like, I'll get you some workers, but you got to let me pay the workers. So he was like, okay, cool. So I went to school, found some guys who I knew wanted to work. And I was like, look, man, I'll give y'all $250 a week if y'all go work this spot after school. The guy would give me $300. So every worker that guy would just take $50 off of they bag for me for finding them. Yeah. That was just my fine, because they was hungry and wanted to make some money at this, that, and that. So I'm plugging you into some $250 was a lot of money back then. So everybody was happy, So that's how it started. You know what I mean? From a hand car wash, the type of people that come in there, meeting a guy or two, and then the guy asking me something about over there where I go to school at. Do I know anybody over there that want to work?
Y'all was selling hard or what?
Hard. Dimes.
And at this time, when you get into the game, what cliques is popping up? In Detroit or on the east side or wherever.
You got the Chamber Brothers, you got the Curry Boys, you got the Best Friends. You know what I'm saying? You got Demetrius, them, you got Maserati. Everybody's popping. It's the heyday. It's that time. You know what I mean? Everybody's popping.
How did you know about all these cliques and there wasn't no social media?
It was the east side. It was just like you just talk to, when you're in the gang, you know different people in the gang, you just start hearing stuff. Like a lot of these guys went to King too. Like I told you originally, a lot of these guys went to King. So by going to King, you kind of knew You like say you be in lunchroom. Then the Van Dyke guys, then the Cross Gratiot guys, then the King Home guys, then the East Jefferson guys, then the guys, from over there back deeper Van Dyke. Even if some few people came from 7 Mile, you just know the different little cliques from going to school. You get what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And then, like I said, you start hearing about it. Oh, the friends took one of the Van Dyke boys' lamb today. You know what I mean? You just hear these stories going around, and you start, putting two and two together.
What was King at academic school when you was going?
It changed while I was there. It was just a rough school. They kicked out everybody like my sophomore year and started the MSAT program and made it a good, smart school. But originally, it was nothing but crazy. School was nothing but crazy. They had locks on every door. It's like that Joe Carter story, Lean on Me or something. The doors was like there's only one or two ways in and out. It was crazy when I first got there.
Damn. Okay, so you hustling, you selling money, you recruit. Well, excuse me, not selling money, but you recruiting workers. When did you start to see your first real money, and what was you doing? Was you copping more, or was you just working for somebody? What was going on?
What happened was me and my father got into it. I met this girl. We were staying off on East 7 Mile over there on Keystone with my sister. And so me and my dad got into it because he gave me $3 to go to the corner store on 7 Mile Keystone to get him a pack of cigarettes.
Mm-hmm.
He gave me all pennies. It was wintertime. I didn't want to walk past. So I'm like, man, look, Pops, the girl who worked at this store, you know what I mean? I be talking to her on the phone. I can't go in here with no $3 worth of pennies. You know what I mean? This, that, and other. He was like, man, get your ass down the store and get me some cigarettes. So I told my sister, I said, this is it. I'm gone. So instead of having people work the spots at this point, remember I told you that people working the spot stuff, I just called the guy. I was like, man, I need some work for the spot. He was like, for what? You got another worker? I was like, no, I'm going to work it. He was like, you going to work it? I'm like, yeah. So I went over there and I started living in the spot 24 hours a day for about 30 days working it myself. You know what I mean? So that's how I really got heavy into it. I was like, I wasn't finna embarrass myself in front of that chick that I like. So I just like, fuck it. My dad's on crack. You know what I mean? I'm not finna keep living like this. You know what I mean? So I'm gonna go ahead and move on and do what I gotta do. The next time he saw me, I had $10,000. You know what I mean? Shocked his ass. You know what I mean?
And this plug you had that was giving you the work, was he a major figure, or was he just somebody had some work?
He was somebody who had some work, but he was getting it from one of the most major people in the city. You know what I'm saying? He was getting it from one of the most major people in the city, an Arab at that. You know what I mean? And if you check back to there, the Arab, he got in trouble. So like I said, I'm not gonna tell nobody, but the Arab who got in trouble, who was having to work, he done left the country. You know what I mean? His name was Chachi, but he was one of the Calicochis or whatever the Salazos, whatever the main family. He was one of their nephews, and that's who my guy was getting it from.
Damn.
He bought him a Forerunner. He bought my black guy Forerunner. He had the whole 8 Mile locked up. He was giving everybody, people cars, doing all types of stuff. He was really a solid dude. He was, even though he was Arab, he was looking out.
So the money had to be hella plentiful with all these major players. So it was just buku's drug users.
You got to understand, man. When heroin, you had users with heroin, but crack brought new users, fresh money. Everybody in Mama was using that shit. Spots was doing, like I said, we had a spot in Ohio doing on a slow day 20,000 and $50 rocks. You get what I'm saying? But this was all over the country. So it was a lot of people making a lot of money. This when Ray for Evans was making his money in DC. When Alpo and them was making their money in New York. You know what I'm saying? This was all during this time. It was money everywhere. Everybody was making a whole lot of money. People had more money than, like I said, it was totally different. Heroin was a totally different operation. You know what I mean? Really, cocaine in a lot of ways fucked up the streets because it brought a lot of squares into the game. And they didn't understand the rules of it, and they destroyed families telling and doing different shit that they didn't even understand. It's just fucked up how that drug just hit the streets.
So you told me I want you to explain this to people because people was asking me on YouTube about it. You said during your time you seen a lot of the plugs that was working with the Cubans. They was all of light skin complexion.
Colombians mainly, but like I said,
Colombians. Yeah.
But yeah, it's always light skin. They always gonna more likely pick a light skin guy. One of my guys was standing out this was on 8 Mile, right off of Wyoming. He was standing out there. He got killed. His name was Nick. He was standing out there on the street. The cute Colombians pulled up and was like, "Hey man, get in the car." He didn't even know what they was on or whatever. He didn't even know they was just in a regular minivan. Next thing you know, this guy getting 100 keys, 200 keys, all types of, this how they was, But like I said, it was always usually a light skinned brother that they gravitated to.
Is it because they were light skinned, or you think it's colorism, or
I
do
think
you see a
darker blacks
difference?
have. I think darker blacks with the other races have a worse reputation.
Oh,
You know,
okay.
as far as like being more ruthless and more, really the reputation that sometimes some people might want who dark skinned. You get what I'm saying? When you think about it, just saying like the friends or whatever. They said they was. I ain't gonna say they did nothing. I'm just saying this is what they say. The streets. They did a lot of treachery, but them was dark skinned guys. You get what I'm saying? They was treacherous. You get what I'm saying? A lot of times when the dark skin or even Boone is dark skinned, you know what I mean? Different guys like that, So if you look at it, a lot of the people, you find a couple light skinned guys who like that, who be doing different stuff. But a lot of time it do be those type of guys who will do, stuff. Just knowing if you've been in jail or whatever, just know that, it is what it is. It's just the truth. You know what I mean? But
Yeah,
then you have
facts.
some people, I feel like myself, who, I don't give a fuck. I might be light skinned, but whatever. You know what I'm saying? And then, play if you want.
Play at your own risk.
Right.
Did you hear about Boone at this time? Did you was his name ringing?
Not really. I didn't hear about him. I'm not gonna lie. I hadn't heard about him.
Okay, a lot of people saying he's lying about or embellishing fact.
Well, from what I know from the street, some of the stuff is embellished. Look at Ed. Ed was crazy. Ed was dark skinned. I'm just
Who was
gonna give you
Ed?
some. Ed Handsome,
Okay.
Big Ed, who shot Maserati the first time they say or whatever.
hmm So Ed was like that.
Yeah, that was his reputation. You know what I'm saying?
During your ascension in the drug game, did you ever join any cliques or anything like that?
Uh, yeah, I ran with some clicks. You could basically say I ran with some clicks or whatever. You know what I mean?
Mm.
I'm not gonna lie. You know what I'm saying? I was connected to some guys. You know what I'm saying?
What
Who
clique did
who
you
was
run
who
with the most?
guys off East Jefferson, of course. That's the home team. You know what I'm saying? East Jefferson, Holcomb area or whatever. But I mess with a lot of cross grassy guys too. You know what I mean? Over there by, you know what I'm saying? By King, by Mount Elliott and the Boulevard over there. I had friends over there too. You know what I'm saying? Who I had love for. So them the main two groups that I really hung with. But also down there by Southeastern. You know what I mean? I got some. That's why I started hustling at first. I got some. I got a lot of guys I love over there. You know what I mean too. So from
hmm
King to Southeastern. You know what I mean? Basically from '94 to Jefferson. If you understand the race, I mean, not cross '94, but a lot of guys is on the other side of '94.
How long was your run before you went to prison?
Short as fuck, about 2, 3 years. The
uh
feds popped me at McDonald's on East Jefferson.
What did they pop you for?
12 ounces of powder cocaine.
Mm. What
And,
did you end
and
up
it
getting?
4 years.
4 years.
Yeah.
How did they pop? Can you explain how did they pop you, or how did they get on
Yeah.
to you?
Yeah, I'll tell you, because I want everybody to know. I put that out to anybody so they would know how they operate. Okay, my guy went to jail. One of my closest guys. He did like a year and a half in the state. They had him on an investigation the whole time. He'd already been, the feds already knew they was going to arrest him because he'd already sold them some guns and different shit like that. So when he came home from prison, he called me and was like, hey, man, the guy I used to mess with, you know what I'm saying? Because he met the guy through a chick he messed with. It was her little brother. Her little brother was a snitch and turned him on to an undercover DEA agent. So he didn't notice at the time. He just knew that they wanted to get some work. So he called me, and this is my guy. I want to help him out. This is one of my main guys. He called me like, hey, man, I need to get some work for these people. So I'm like, okay. So we get on the phone with the people. I tell them, like, hey, uh, what y'all trying to get? They like, we want a bird. Back then, more than 600 grams or something like that carried life in prison. So I was like, I'm not gonna sell you no bird. I'll sell you 12 ounces today, and if this go good, I'll sell you 12 ounces tomorrow and 12 ounces the next day or some shit like that. But I'm not bringing out no bird. Basically, I'm not trying to get life in prison. You know what I mean? Because that's the only thing I did kind of know about the law. That over a
That
certain
was
amount of
that was a 650 law. That was the 650 law they installed.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
Okay.
I brought him out, not knowing he's a Fed. I brought him out to 12 ounces. Let me back up something. He calling me on my pager. He telling me he in Southfield, but he got a downtown Detroit number, which he was at the federal building. I should have knew it was something funny there. Let me say that. Because the phone number said 313-259. 259 is a downtown Detroit number. I knew that from going to King and my girlfriends and shit to stay in the area. And I was thinking at the time, that's why you always got to use your own science. Like, damn, I know this is a number around here, but I'm so young and dumb. I'm like, fuck it. But anyway, getting back to the story. So, yeah, he called me. I talked to him. And like I said, he could have got me, I could have got 27 years because I asked him a question. Lucky he was a rookie DEA agent. I asked him a question. I asked him, how do you want it? He said, huh? I said, oh, don't worry about it. If he would have said, bring it hard, I'd have brought it hard. And you know what the scale was like back then. I'd have been through. You know what I mean? Because I didn't know that they had a scale for hard. I didn't know that. So by him saying he don't know, I just said, fuck it. Just get this nigga some powder. Excuse me, this guy some powder. So anyway, I went and met him. When I go into McDonald's, it's a girl I know in there. She's shaking her head like, no. I'm thinking she like, oh, you little badass motherfucker. You doing, I know what you up to. But she trying to tell me the police is in McDonald's. I'm not catching on that she's giving me a signal. So we go in the bathroom. We show the guy to work. He's like, okay, cool. The money's in the car. We go back to the car. He take his hat off his head. The feds jump out from everywhere. You get what I'm saying? And I'm going to tell you something. I got in his car with him. And his radio, the wire, it was all static. I was like, turn the music. Why y'all ain't listening to music? That's what I told my man. And when we turned on the music, it was static. Like, man, the radio's static. I should have knew he had a wire on. Because the radio, they showed this in every cop show. But I'm not catching on to the signs. I'm not paying attention to none of the signs. Anyway, so like I said, he take his hat off. They come out they look like they came out the ground. You know what I mean? They tell me, they like, hey, look. They tell all us. They like, look, if y'all don't plead guilty to this, we're going to charge y'all with a bird. And y'all can get a mandatory 5 years in the feds for the bird. And I asked my attorney, I'm like, man, we didn't sell them but 12 ounces. So how are they going to charge us for a bird? He said, well, by you producing the first part of the deal, they can say they believe you was going to produce the other two parts. And they could charge you with that. So I learned then, don't be telling nobody what you're going to do tomorrow. This is just what I could do today, because tell the motherfucker what you can do tomorrow and you produce the first part of it, then you can be charged with whatever the fuck you said. So I'm like, wow. So me and all my co-defendants, and they telling me to charge my co-defendant's wife, and like a sister to me, my best friend's sister, who was in the car with them, if we don't take the plea, because they're going to charge them with conspiracy too. So if we don't take the plea, they're going to charge them too. They're going to add them to the indictment, get these girls who ain't got nothing to do with it sometime. So we all agreed to plead guilty. We pled guilty, did our time. That was that.
Wow. See, yeah, I didn't even know that. You put people hip. Damn, I didn't know they could charge you for what you might produce. God.
Because you said you could produce something, you produced the first part of what you agreed you could produce. So now they can charge you with the other two parts.
Mm-hmm. So you about to go to the feds? Do you get any bond or anything like that, or are you just in there?
No, I've never been charged with a crime in my life. The feds released me on bond. They sent me to a treatment center. I told them, hey man, I'm on drugs, man. They sent me to a treatment, made me go to a treatment center, and I got a guy I got to report to, but they released me for free. They say that they tell me this. They said, listen, if you run from this bond, no matter what, you're going to get 5 years. It doesn't matter if you beat the case or win the case or nothing. You're going to get 5 years if you run from this bond. You better show up to court. You better do what you're going to do, or you're getting 5 years. I was only facing 3 years. I wasn't finna get 8, had that shit go bow-legged on me by running my first offense or whatever. So I'm like, okay, I understood the game they was playing by. All 3 of my co-defendants didn't get no bond. And they didn't get no bond because all 3 of them was on parole. So they had parole holes on them. You get what I'm saying? So till they got out, people thought I might have been hot. Once they got out, they was able to clarify that, hey, no, he didn't do nothing. We had parole holes. That's why they held us. You know what I mean? This type of shit that goes on the street. You can get a false rep. You ain't even did nothing. But it's just the point that, like I said, you know what I mean? You free. Why they not free? Well, they got some other shit. They got state cases, so they being held for their state violations, not for this. You get what I'm saying? But the truth will come out. It will set you free at some point. You know what I mean? When they came home and seen all us together and hanging out, they're like, "Oh, okay." You know what I mean? I know his story. They all told the story. You know, nothing was funny. And I can say this about my guys: none of us told on each other. We was like Bobby some murdering them. None of us told. We all took our time. You know, laid down. You know, it was nobody told on nobody in my case, except for the guy got called by the police, but he didn't tell. He just got trapped up and got busted, but he never told. You get what I'm saying? So I can say that about my guys. We did admit to the crimes we did because we didn't have no choice, but you know, that's it.
So you go do your 4 years. What do you? We'll get into particulars of prison later, but you go do your 4 years. You come home. What do? Are you back selling dope? You like what's going on?
Nah, first of all, I do my 4 years. That prison story a little deep. I end up in Louisiana in the federal detention center. You know, and when I'm in there, Master P, main man, like I told you before, he's in there. And that's why he was a Nation of Islam member, but I was a member of the Moles, and that's where I got to talking and learning a lot of stuff. And the feds was like college for me. Now my level of how to move and how to operate is at an all-time new level because they didn't have back then just knuckleheads. They had smart people. I was the youngest person in the penitentiary. So everybody took a gravitation to me, like me, like, oh, look at Youngie. You know what I mean? They locking up babies. He ain't never been to a club yet where they can drink liquor or nothing. He's 18 years old. He's finna turn 19 already in the pen. So they started schooling me. You know what I mean? And, you know, that was a beautiful experience because a lot of times by not having men in the house or fathers on drugs or whatever, you need to learn some structure. Because when I first got there, I'm going to tell you something. I went to eat my breakfast and I came back and my old head was like, hey, man, check this out, man. Why you didn't make your bed? It's like, man, I don't make my bed at home. I ain't making my motherfucking bed in here. Fuck this shit. I ain't doing shit. I'm mad, bitter about being in prison. He's like, look, man, we get to go to eat by the cleanliness of the unit. If they put on a board down there that they don't get to go out to the yard an hour early and people got all types of stuff they got going on the yard because your room is the problem, you're going to come back to shit, piss, and all types of stuff on your bed. They're going to really go crazy on you. You won't have to clean up because of them. You got to clean up because of us. We run this, not them. You got to, you know, abide by this shit. I'm like, whoa. So then I understood I had to make my bed. So I started making my bed because the threat wasn't, I didn't care about no threat from the officers, but I understood that, hey, man, these other convicts ain't going to go for this because, you know, you're not finna just come here and decide that you're going to make life about you. It's about everybody. And so you need to learn how to, you know, live with the people, you know what I mean, or whatever. So
right.
It woke me up real fast.
Who was Master P Man?
His name is Boswell, Anthony Boswell. If you see that movie with him and Nicolas Cage, when he in the movie with Nicolas Cage, the guy sitting in the front seat with him, the light-skinned guy. The guy in the Body movie who told him, I'm going to take you to the big man house. And the big man was locked up with us on the federal yard. His name is Fred Scott. These are names you can look up and start doing some research and see that, yeah, we was all at the same place at the same time and shit like that. You know what I mean? But me and Bos was super tight. You know what I mean? And like I said, you know, when my mother died, he was one of the first people that came to me and, you know, told me, you know, hang in there and praying for me and different shit like that. Cause, you know, my mother died while I was in there. But yeah.
Is that where you found the More Science Temple of America in the federal prison?
Exactly. I always knew. That's where I learned. First of all, it clicked to me. Like I said, the guy told me, he said, hey, man, if you want to know how somebody became great, don't study them, study what they study. And I remember they was like, man, this guy came home and got $1 million grant back then and did this, and other. And he heavy into this More Science Temple of America. And people was like, well, man, you a GD, how the hell you going to be a Mo? First of all, like you said earlier, first of all, it's a nationality. So it don't have nothing to do with being a peace stone and none of, even though they connected to it. You know, anything that can be used for good can be used for bad. I learned that in there. So just because some people use it for bad don't mean this ain't good. And second of all, one of our laws, Hoover said we could be any religion we want to be. You get what I'm saying? So the old heads like, yeah, you can under that pretense. Then I learned later on as I did more research that we all used to be basically Muslims. We was all Main 21. We all come from this. With the Stones is preaching in these laws and all this type of stuff, the points of the stars and all this type of stuff. It's all this stuff that's traced back to Moses that the GDs and the Stones and the Vice Lords all study. You know what I mean? These teachers. They just used it not for right, but it's the same teaching. You know what I mean? Same principle.
Right.
According to some people, I'm not judging nobody. Like I said, I'm not saying, I'm just saying, but some people might feel like they're not using it for right. But, it takes finance to lift a fallen humanity. You know what I mean? So sometimes you got to get that finance. However, you got to get it to make it happen.
Exactly. In prison, did you ever have to put in any work, or did you have a smooth bit?
I had a smooth bit. I was on a calm yard. I was in the FCI. It was pretty calm. It wasn't, it wasn't a lot of wild shit going on. It started getting wild as I was leaving because more and more younger people were coming in, and that causes the wildness. But when I first got there, the average person in there was over 40. So it wasn't no young guys in there. You know what I mean? So it's just older guys. So it was pretty smooth for me. You know what I mean? It did, like I said, I'm from Chicago and Detroit, so and I knew a lot of people, and a lot of people knew my family who came in there from Chicago. A lot of people knew my family from Detroit too, because my grandfather and them ran and uncles ran after hour spots where a lot of people gabbled and all types of. So I had a good enough name and was so young that, like, you know how it is. It's guys in there who, like, you so young that if they see somebody trying to come at you wrong or whatever, try to pick on you for your size or some shit, your youth or something, it's gonna be like, nah, man, fuck with me. You know what I mean? I'm your age, I'm your size. You ain't finna fuck with shorty like that. You know what I mean? So that's how it was for me. You know what I mean? I don't know how it is for everybody. You know what I mean? But then, like I said, I got in there and I started like selling a lot of stuff. And I'm not talking about drugs. I was selling underwears and t-shirt, brand new stuff that people couldn't get out the laundry because I was a mo. I knew people who worked in laundry. They would give me stuff like that. I ran a couple little gambling pools. My money started getting up. I started having more people around me. You know what I mean? And like I said, just the other good thing to help me. There was a guy from my block. He was from Stateway, which is like right up the street from my project, but it's not the same project. He was like 6'5", 400 pounds, but he's from the same block in Chicago, and he knew everybody I knew. So he was like, but not nothing happened to him. He a GD like me. He from my block. You know what I mean? Ain't nobody gonna touch Shorty. You know what I mean? I guarantee I'm gonna tear this bitch up. You know what I mean? So yeah, I had it pretty smooth.
Was the height of your street career, was it before prison or after prison?
After, I'm gonna be honest.
Okay, so you come home, you get back into the game. What's going on?
Well, I come home, I started working for a minute. You know what I mean? Had a little job or whatever. Shit wasn't, I don't know, it wasn't going right. Met a little girl, she gave me all types of problems. So I'm laying down. Me and my guy had rented an apartment off of Woodward. And I'm laying down, and my best friend come in. He's still active or whatever. And he see me laying down, and he said, man, you a hustler, man. He said, man, you gonna go crazy if you keep doing what you're doing, man. I don't know what the fuck's on your mind, but he gave me one of the speeches. You better get it right, dog, because you fucking up right now. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And then, like, a light went off, like bing. You know what I'm saying? Next thing I know, I'm on a flight to Houston because I knew a guy from the Feds. You know what I mean? He was Egyptian, so he wasn't even a black guy. I called him, boom. Next thing I know, I come back a week or two later. I had a whole bunch of marijuana in Detroit. You know what I'm saying? So here we go.
And you back off at the races with it. Was it a lot of
Yeah.
problem in the marijuana game like it was the cocaine?
Not really, but the amount I had causes problems.
Oh damn, you on the east side with it?
Yeah, for sure. For
Mm-hmm.
sure. I'm over there. And so the word got out that I had got some trees. And then, some guys was looking into me, but happened I knew some guys from A camp who told me be careful because they looking into you. You get what I'm saying? So that kind of, kept it where they never could get near me. But yeah, it could have caused problems.
Because you light skinned, was people trying to try you extra?
You know what, man? Like I said, not really, a little bit me, but I'm gonna tell you the truth. My main man, he was light skinned too. And he was crazy. So a lot of people had a lot of respect for him to start with. You get what I'm saying? And so that kind of took a lot of pressure up off of me because they didn't even want to have to deal with him. Like one time a guy got into me about some stuff that wasn't really had nothing to do with me and whatever. And I just told him about it. I didn't think he was going to act on it or nothing. Next thing I hear, he done went to the guy's mama house, got the guy, and basically told him, hey, man, you better never, say nothing else to him. You know what I'm saying? I don't care what. You know he ain't got nothing to do with it. Basically, you ain't going to put no pressure on him because of this, that, and the other. Bam. Now, you got to understand, they don't really know me that like really what I am because I'm from Chicago. So a lot of stuff that you do when you're young prove who the type of person you are. You get what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So they don't know. I ain't told nobody I'm a GD from Chicago. You get what I'm saying? I didn't tell nobody in Detroit about this. I left that Chicago shit in Chicago. I didn't tell them about it because they didn't have no gangs. And also, back then when you by yourself, somebody be like, he in a gang, I want to try him more because he's a gang member from here. So by me not saying that avoided a lot of that confrontation. But I'm going to tell you what happened. I'm going to tell you a true story. So he come get me one day, my main man. He's like, hey, man, let's go to this hood picnic or whatever. So we go to the hood picnic. There's a guy there who, like, we had some transactions over marijuana and we had disagreement over like $500-$600 or whatever. So he's trying to like put some pressure on me. Like, man, what's up with that money? So I'm like, man, this is not the place to do this, that, or other. Give me your number. We'll get together. He like, no, man, you be going on high on different places. You be in and out. I need mines now, whatever. So my best friend walk up and he's like, look, man, what's going on? He's like, man, fuck this pussy ass nigga. He says, man, take your pussy ass back over there. So the guy like, man, this story gets deeper. So the guy like, man, it's like that. And he like, yeah, it's like that. So the guy walked back over there and I'm watching him. But he's looking at me like, man, you my guy, man, but you can't be no sucker like this. Let these niggas hold you or nothing like this, man. I don't know what's going on. Everybody's out here. But he don't know what's really inside of me. Like I said, that I'm not no sucker at all. So anyway, I'm going to tell you what happened. So he goes back to this other guy. He's like, hey, man, where it's at? He's like, it's on my back. And I see his shirt lift up. You know what I mean? So I know what he's going to, what he's getting, because he's not going to let my man talk to him like that. You know what I'm saying? And in front of everybody and not do nothing. He would have felt like the neighborhood would have been laughing at him forever. So my man hollered at the other guy like, hey, man, I'm telling you, if you give it to him, I'm going to give it to your ass too. You know what I mean? But while he's saying this and they paying attention to him, this is why life is a science. You can't underestimate nobody. Nobody's paying attention to me. So I come out from beside the car and I blaze both of them. You know what I'm saying? Fortunate for me, they live. They don't want no more problems. They didn't do no telling. I didn't get no trouble behind it or whatever. Like I said, this 30 years ago, so the statute of limitations is, way past so I can tell. So I hit both of them. Boom, boom, boom. But I do it outside in front of everybody. It even, like I said, to be honest, it even make the news in front of everybody because it's a high school, like situation with them. So anyway, make a long story short, from that day forward, everybody seen with their own eyes what this guy will do. It was a total different level of respect, if you get what I'm saying. You know what I mean? Once you in the hood show that you will do what you got to do if that situation presents itself, everybody changed their whole tone from that point on.
Exactly. I get it. Can you tell me a little bit about I think his name was Flutie or something? He got buried in a car in Chicago.
Flukie Stokes. His son got buried. Wimp, Lil Flukie got buried in the Cadillac casket in '84. Okay, I can tell you a little about him. He had the whole Chicago South Side sold up with heroin. This is all documented. You can read up on this. So he was the main heroin dealer. But when his son got killed, he was on Mac and Fisher in Detroit. I read this in an article, and I'm like, man, this right around where Demetrius be. You get what I'm saying? Like, this is right in the hood. This shit. And then I knew he was a big gambler, and Demetrius was a big gambler too. I'm like, man, this is too many coincidences. This don't add up. So I get to the story. So I'm like, damn, they had to know each other. This is what I'm thinking the whole time. But it gets even deeper. A couple of years later, Maserati Rick get killed, and he get buried in a Benz casket. I'm like, oh, these only two people I ever knew at that time to get buried in car caskets. All this stuff, they had to know each other. You know what I mean? You get what I'm saying? It's like it had to be a connection. And then I found out that the guy they call him Unc, I'm just gonna say. He did too, Malone or whatever, lived on that block. But the one who introduced a lot of people to the plugs in Detroit. I'm talking about the Demetrius and the Erie Adams and all this, that, and other. So I'm like, whoa, you know what I mean? So, like I said, Chicago and Detroit then had a major connection with each other forever. And what was really deep about it is my mother used to date one of Fluky Stokes' main enforcers. So I'm like, man, I'm around here operating with these guys, but I got connected to these guys through my mama. And they knew each other. It's like a small world, you know what I mean? You know, but yeah.
What
And
do
then
you know? What
if you don't know, Demetrius, they documented he dead now, but he had a mansion in Chicago too, which kind of made even more sense to me. You know what I mean?
what was Fluky Jr. doing in Detroit? You know, probably just hustling.
No, Fluky Senior was in Detroit when his son died. Junior was in Chicago. He got killed in
Oh,
Chicago.
okay.
But it's just deep that they called him, and that's why I kind of put the story together. And they said he was on Mac and Fisher. You know what I mean? They didn't say what he was doing or whatever. They said where he was at. And I know from the streets, you know, like I said, Meach had the $1 million spot on Mac. So I'm like, they say he had a spot doing $1 million a day on Mac, if you know anything about that.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, oh, okay. This makes sense. This all makes sense. Both of them got some of the best heroin. Got the cities locked up and shit like this, big gamblers and shit, you know. And you know who Maserati Rick's best friend was, right?
No.
Tommy Hearns, the boxer. This is where Crocs come into play. You get what I'm saying?
Uh-huh.
You know, so and then a few guys out of Crocs then had some little indictments come out over the years. You know what I mean? So, like I said, so back then, if you're from Detroit, you know doing anything, you go to the fights, you go to the All-Star games, you go to, and that's where you start meeting people. You know what I mean? And one thing leads to another.
Is that how most of the major players met, at fights or
Fights or gambling?
mm-hmm. Gambling was a real big deal then?
Yeah, it's always been. It's always gonna be. It's just that the casino then got involved with it now and took it off the streets. But when it was on the
Mm-hmm.
streets, when it wasn't legal, and you just had to go to different spots and stuff, you know what I mean? You could go on a spot in Detroit, you know, it'd be 2-3 million in there. I used to go into these gambling places to watch. I didn't have the money to gamble, but I just wanted to see the shit. You know, I just wanted to witness this shit. So I wasn't in there
Mm-hmm.
gambling, but I was in there watching, like, wow, this is amazing. You know what I mean? Like, man.
Who were some of the big players you seen come through and gamble?
Erie Adams, you know what I'm saying? I'm just gonna say the ones who did. Meach, you know, Maserati, everybody. I see them all gamble. You know what I'm saying? All the top ones. You know what I'm saying?
You seen White Boy Rick there?
Nah. Like I said,
Okay.
White Boy Rick to me is overrated. You know what I mean? You know, he wasn't, you know, like he wasn't. I never remember seeing him at the Climax. I heard he might have went to Rados or the UBQ or a couple clubs or shit like that, but you know, he's overrated, man. He was up under the Curry boys. And you
Mm-hmm.
know, Boo, that's my brother, Boo Curry, who was his best friend, who introduced him, you know. And I met Boo, and he used to play basketball with me and stuff, but I didn't really get to know him. He was in the Fed pen when I was in the Fed pen. So I got to meet him during that time and really get close with him. And you know.
Oh damn, you know Boo Curry. All right. I think he just did
Yeah,
an interview with him.
he did an interview with who?
I think Mogul State of Mind.
Yeah. Boo, my man. That's my main man.
Mm-hmm.
Boo solid. Boo solid. Boo solid. Known fight and everything. I remember Boo told me something that had me cracking up laughing when we came home from the pen. He was like, yeah, because we got out at the same time too. He said, yeah, man. They used to have these shirts, strictly business, spelled with the K. And he said, yeah. When we left the streets, Detroit was the murder capital. You know what I mean? It wasn't the murder capital when we came home. You know what I mean? So he was saying that.
Right. I didn't know they put it down like that.
Oh man, they was the leader. His brother was the leader of the gang. So you know they've been famous in Detroit for years.
Mm-hmm.
They say he was the leader of the BKs.
What did the BK stand for? Was it Black Kings or something?
Man, you got me on that one. I don't really know because, like I said, I just came to Detroit like when they started dying down or whatever. But my best friend, if I called him, he would know. He know all the history. He know it even better than me because he been there his whole life. You know what I'm saying? So he know all the history from the Earl Flynns and all them, the Pony Boys. He know, like I said, he know everything. I know a lot, but he know even more than me. That's like a little bit before my era.
What about the 2020s?
That's my era. I went to school with them guys. They a lot of them went to King.
Was they gang banging like Crip or something at
No,
the
they was
time?
just money in a clique. They was more money clique. You know what I mean? Like a clique that was getting money. Yeah, they'd beat your ass if they, all jumped you or some shit like that. Because they was with their clique. But I'm just saying they wasn't like gang banging. They was just, Detroit wasn't on gang bang. They was on hustle. Their games was hustle games, basically. Like a lot of guys selling dope together and doing shit like that
Mm-hmm.
back then.
Who was Erie Adams to the street? Ponytail, aka Ponytail.
He was the guy who took over when Demetrius left.
And allegedly he got Demetrius plugged.
Yeah, he got
You
it.
know how that came about? Oh, when you say
Unc introduced him. Curtis Malone.
mm-hmm.
And then, through gambling and all that type of stuff.
With a name like Ponytail, I was told he was a hairdresser or whatever. Was he like real feminine with curly
Man,
hair?
he
Like,
wasn't no hairdresser. Whoever told you that was capping.
oh, Juice told me he owned a bunch of salons and he did
He
hair and
did,
stuff.
but he wasn't no hairdresser. He just owned the salons. He got shot
Oh,
up at
okay.
one of his salons.
Oh, damn. Do you know what the situation was around that?
I heard that had something to do with the same people who had something to do with I heard it had to do something with the same situation that Demetrius was dealing with. You know what I mean? The same situation.
Did they ever find out who killed Demetrius Holloway in that hospital?
Now that wasn't Demetrius got killed in the hospital. That was Maserati.
Maserati. Yeah, Maserati. Yeah, that. Yeah. Did they ever
Uh,
find it?
I don't know. You know what I'm saying? If they found out, I think I guess on some documentaries, so they say different people did it or whatever. You hear a lot of shit in the streets, but I don't know.
Was that a common thing with people getting killed in the hospital?
No, but it wasn't uncommon. I put it like this: with the level he was on, for somebody, if they wanted to take over his situation, do something like that, to go to that measure, because it would be, they might feel like it's worth. I can understand why somebody would do something that was uncommon in that situation to him. Not that I'm
Mm-hmm.
agreeing with it, okaying it, or nothing, but I'm just saying I can understand why somebody would try to do that if they was trying to make a move for his spot or whatever.
Was Meech and Maserati, was they really like that or was they hustlers?
No, they was like that. They was like that. Both of them wasn't they was like that. They was like that from what I know and what I hear and what I witnessed. They was like that.
Have you heard about Cliff Jones?
Yeah. I know him personally.
Oh, you do?
Yeah. Bruh. I know, bruh.
I asked people, well, not people, but one other person. Was he more scantless than
Remember I
Bush
told you I
Jones?
hung down there on Mount in the Boulevard. That's his hood.
Oh, really? Okay.
Okay, but yeah, you go ahead.
Was he more scantless than Bush Jones?
I don't know because I don't really know Bush Jones like that. But I can tell you what, this was what I heard. When they indicted him, when the feds indicted him, they said the car dealerships made a lot of money. Because they said everybody was playing broke when he was around, when they bought their new cars the second they knew he was gone.
Damn.
So they said the car dealerships made a lot of money. Everybody who was like, oh, that nigga, people was putting out there, I'm broke, I'm finished. Because they didn't, they didn't want that problem. You know what I'm saying?
What can happen in a person's life from the stories I hear, what can happen in a person's life to make them that type of way like Cliff Jones was, that a backdoor you, manipulate you, give you the drugs, then rob you? What makes a person like that?
Now I heard all these stories, but I'm not gonna say they true or not. I'm like I said, I got a lot of respect for bruh. You know what I mean? So I'm not gonna say they true or not, but I'm gonna say this. What would make it's just the game. That's why the name of the streets is the game. It's just the game that you playing. In prison and shit like that, it can make a person bitter. When them guys done sat down for 15, 10, 12 years, a lot of them, and this, that, and other, and they come home, and they like, this pussy motherfucker right here, like the motherfucker, what's the song? Damn. He got a song out, Life. Jenny's got, they riding around with these 24s, and they bada, bada, bada. I'll be robbing these guys or whatever. You know, when you really listen to his whole song, it's the truth. They come home and they like, man, this guy's not even cut like this. You know what I mean? So they're gonna apply the pressure. You know what I'm saying? If that's what they say,
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying he do. I'm saying that's just how the streets is. Whoever do it or don't do it, that's how it really is. So if like I said, if you're not all the way in, if you're not down for every part of it, you shouldn't get involved with it. You know what I'm saying? Because the science of it tell you that this might come your way. This is one of the problems that could be your way if you look for the problems. Good, like God told me, he said he's a troubleshooter. So he's trying to spot trouble before it comes. You know what I mean? He's telling me that's what I need to do when I get back out there. And you know, he schooled me a lot of stuff. His name was Sparks. And
Mm-hmm.
his story was deep. He did like 30 years. The police tricked him in jail. They told his mother just come down and interview. He gonna get in a little trouble, but he won't be gone too long. Or this, that, and other. He went in and got 30 years. He went for the okie doke. But what he was telling me, you got to be a troubleshooter. You know what I mean? So you know that if you're gonna do this, this is what possibly can happen. So what are you gonna do if that happens? That's how you got to really look at it. You know.
Now, when I post this, you might get some pushback for saying you got a lot of love and respect for Cliff Jones.
I don't care about no pushback for that. You know what I mean? Pushback. I'm just being real. I do. And they do too. That's why they're gonna do a lot of put. That's why it's gonna be a lot of comments. You get what I'm saying? You know what I mean? You know?
Even though he like they say kind of like ruined Erie Adams and this whole operation, he probably told on some people, he killed people for no reason.
Why they say
You
he
say
ruined Erie's operation?
because
They
he
don't even
was
know what they
pressing.
talking about.
Juice
Huh?
say he was pressing. Juice said he was pressing Erie, for drugs and like Bogart this way in when everybody told him don't mess with Cliff, and he did anyway, and then things got ruined after that, killings, robbings, all types of stuff.
That's not how he got originally linked up. I'm not gonna say that ruined his operation. And I'm gonna say that because he met some girl and was dealing with her brother or something when he threw the, which is an indictment, threw the two keys out the car and all this type of stuff. That had nothing to do with bro. So how he caught his first smoke from the feds had nothing to do with bro. You know what I mean? So, like I said, a lot of people didn't even know about him. You get what I'm saying? So I disagree. You know what I mean? I got a lot of respect for a lot of stuff, Juice is saying. A lot of stuff he is kind of right or whatever. But you can understand, this kid, this guy had a lot of money. So
Who
it
you referring to?
wasn't
Erie
whatever
had a lot of
bro was
money,
doing to him, it wasn't hurting him. I'll
right?
just put it like that. It wasn't hurting him.
Is it is it safe to say? I'm just asking. Is it safe to say Cliff Jones was the Alpo of Detroit? Because essentially Alpo was get money with somebody, then eventually kill him for their stuff, or kill him after he owe him 20, 30 bricks.
Like I said, I disagree with that. I would say they would say he was more like Preacher.
Preacher, that's what I'm saying. Okay, yeah, yep, exactly. Okay, there we go. Preacher, not Alpo. Preacher, the
Okay, I
Black
would say
King.
he was more like Preacher. You know what I'm saying? Than Alpo.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Because you know that's my opinion. From what you know what I mean. That's how I see it. Alpo was just a total snake. You know what I mean? I don't see bro like that. Bro had some love for some of the people that was with him. You know what I mean? Everybody with him wasn't getting backdoor. A couple people do, but you gotta understand when you deal with a person like that, you must maintain a high level of respect for him. If he sees that you're losing respect for him, you putting yourself in danger because you become a threat now. You don't have the love or the respect that you once had. And sometimes people will get cocky and openly not give a person certain people you're supposed to give certain type of respect to. That's just how it is. You know what I mean? Like it's people that I'm sure when they see Bush Jones, they're gonna give him a certain level of respect. You know what I'm saying? It's just certain people they can say they want to say about these guys. You know what I'm saying? I'm not saying nothing about I'm saying the stories that are told and what's in paper, but I'm saying some of these guys you gotta give them their respect, man. You know what I mean? Whether you agree with what they did or don't. You know what I mean? You're not God. Let God be the judge. But I'm just saying they've earned their respect if you understand what some people say might have happened because of them. I'll put it like that.
During your time in the streets, have you ever sat back like and looked around like, damn, these guys at the slightest disrespect, the slightest mistake, the short on the bag, these guys will kill me. Did you ever be like, damn, it's not what I want to be around? Kind of like,
Well, like I said, that's what we signed up for. But at the same time, I'm gonna get even deeper. They wasn't really like if you tried to run off with the bag, okay, you might be in threat. But if you just something happened where it's an honest mess up, you gotta think about it. You a good earner, person gonna let you work your way up out of that situation. If you're trying to, so you ain't gonna have to really worry about that as much. You
Mm-hmm.
know, yeah, it's some backdooring and different things going on. You know what I mean? But like I said, a lot of times, say for example, I'm just gonna use an example. Say for example, Joe Blow, and we don't know who he is. He tell me go take this to somebody. Now I'm a cutthroat type of guy. I take it to you, and I see you a goofy. I don't even really fuck with Joe Blow that well. He just feels safe having me do it. So yeah, sometimes people will go back and backdoor that situation and do that. But after that's they got nothing out of it. They really shouldn't even been involved in the situation. The person who's giving it to you should have gave it to you better. You get what I'm saying?
Right.
You put me in a situation. You know what I'm saying? You know
Yeah.
that's all that was. You know what I'm saying? Like I said, these guys. I like I said, I got a lot of respect for a lot of people. You know what I mean? When I say I got love for somebody, I don't mean I agree with everything they do or this, that, and other, but you don't know what they might have did for me to help me out in different situations or how they treated me. When I first, met Cliff or whatever, I met him at a barbershop. We was talking about me coming home from the feds and stuff like that. And it was just a nice casual conversation. You know what I mean? You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what he did. I don't think he admitted to I don't think he's ever been. I think he's been convicted once of like doing this, that, and other, but I don't think he's been convicted of no murders or nothing like that. Maybe guns and different stuff like that. So I'm not gonna be the one to say that he's guilty of anything. You know what I mean? I don't know. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? I
Right.
didn't see it. I wasn't with him. I don't know. You know what I mean? I can't. And I ain't. Like I said, I'm damn sure not no snitch. So I'm not gonna put that jacket on nobody that I don't know. Like I said, he was solid with me. I got respect and love for him for my personal reasons. You know what I mean? I'm not saying I agree with everything or whatever, but hey, that's just how I feel as a person. I'd be fake to lie to you and tell you that something bad about somebody that I don't feel that way about. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly. In the 80s, 90s, who was the hardest hitting crew you would say? Just most vicious.
I say it changed every week, meaning that once the feds take a few guys away and different stuff like this and money and there's a lot of factors that play in it. But the same group, the friends, which is 2020. The friends, a lot of them was 2020. You know what I mean? So they started 2020 and end up some of them friends hit bruised and all that. I would say, and then like I said, Cliff now. You know what I'm saying? You know, them was the two crews that I would say on the east side that I knew about that was like that from my area.
I
But
remember
there's
the
a lot of
name
crews all over Detroit like that.
Right. I remember the name Bruiser being in my comments. Who was Bruiser?
Another hustler who was cool with the friends and this, that, another guy who was getting money off the east side. He was the leader of 2020.
Okay.
That was the leader from what I understand. You know what I'm saying? So yeah.
Did you ever run across like Rock and Reg or heard of them, anything like that?
Yeah, I heard. I mean, you have to hear them guys if you're on the east side. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? You know, one time I was making some money somewhere, and some people came by and knocked on the door, and basically was like, "Hey, man, we gonna need this. So and so sent us down here. Y'all basically can go, or we can figure it out another way." I'm talking about 15, 16 years old, so we had to go. We was not prepared to do nothing. So they win. You know what I mean? We
Right.
walk away. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
So yeah, you heard about them for sure. I
I
told you
heard
this
the
too. My cousin, which I didn't know, was his best friend. Him and Boogaloo. My cousin was their best friend. You know what I'm saying? I'm not gonna
damn.
say his name because I don't want. He was a square. He went to school. He graduated, got a master's. He wasn't nowhere in the game. He never did nothing to nobody. But he was their best friend. He grew up on the same block they grew up on, a few houses down from them. And they used to buy him pellies and clothes and everything and tell him they would fuck him up if they caught him doing anything wrong because he wasn't cut like that. You know what I mean? So, like I
Mm-hmm.
said, people gotta have respect. Like they say, these guys are all this, that, and other. bad, but look at some good they did. They had a friend that was in school that they wouldn't even let get involved with nothing wrong.
Damn.
You know what I'm saying? And still would buy him clothes and jackets and all types of shit. You know what I mean? Just because. Because when I told him that, I thought I might have a little problem with them, this, that, and other about that marijuana situation, he's like, man, you don't remember when I had them pellies and all that type of stuff? And I'm like, yeah. He said, who you think was buying it? I was like, I don't know. He's like, them. They're my best friends, man. Why didn't you call and tell me? I said, you never told me this to today. I didn't know.
Right.
I had no idea. You know what I'm saying? Like I said, he was a square. He was no type of, ain't never sold a dime bag. You know, we don't even smoke or use drugs. That was just somebody they grew up with before they even got in the game, playing with kiddie friends who they had a love for.
Where was the integrity lost where the man would tell you go to school and you can't touch a bag, or take you home to your mama and tell her what happened to that integrity? What was it? Drugs ruined it. Like, it's not like that no more. They're gonna
Drugs,
put that bag in your
drugs
hand.
ruined it. Crack ruined it. Crack ruined it. It was still like that when heroin was the main thing, but once crack came out, it destroyed the black community. It did the desire that they set out to do when they formed the plan 20 years before they put it out. When they was just testing it in laboratories on rats and mice and all this type of stuff. They knew what was coming our way. They knew what they was going to do to us. You
Right.
know what I'm saying? They was finna. Too many of us would get educated, going to school, doing too much stuff. Getting too advanced. So I tell you, this is the analogy they gave me. If you give a starving person a cracker or a steak, the cracker gonna taste just good as a steak. So say you've been going to school, you ain't got no clothes, your parents on drugs, you barely eating, and then you see your friend who looking nice, who got everything, and he your age, and he telling you, hey man, you could have this too. You're not gonna go to school for 10 more years to get that real
Hell
success.
no.
You're gonna go ahead and jump in right now. And that's what they betting on. That's the bet they making. And they knew that 9 out of 10 of us was gonna jump. Because you ain't got no parent like, hey, look, man, you're chasing the pie in the sky. Hey, if you just keep doing this, it might not seem like it, but it's gonna pay. You don't have nobody giving you that speech on this side. You just got the guy telling you how good it is over here. He not telling you that you might get killed, that you might get your head busted open, that you might get tied up in closets and all types of stuff. He's not telling you none of this. You just seeing the good stuff, the nice clothes, the this, the that, and so you want to be a part of it. Like I said, when I first moved into the spot on the east side, got my head busted wide open. You know what I'm saying? Got tied up in the closet. Damn near died. You know what I'm saying? By a guy who's 32, 33. A stone killer in that neighborhood. You know what I'm saying? To where he told me he was going to kill me, but he decided not to kill me because I was so cool. Because I told him when he busted my head, this is exactly what I told him. I said, listen, man, why did you do all that? He said, man, I want that shit. I said, man, here, man, you didn't have to do all that for that. He said, man, if I knew you this cool, I wouldn't have did. I didn't know. I said, shit. You know what I mean? Basically, I'm 16 years old. He's like, yeah, man, I'm not going to kill you. I'm just going to tie you up and put you in this closet. You just stay here. And he went to jail for life for killing some people for doing the same type of stuff. You know what I mean? So I was spared because some of the people that he had in the same situation as me didn't make it. I made it. You know what I mean? I got about that situation. And he, like I said, ended up becoming cool with me before he got that time. We ended up becoming cool. He never did that to me again, nothing. He was like, man, I got a lot of respect for you, this, that, another. Woo woo. He introduced me to a guy who helped me get to Ohio. He did all types of cool stuff for me out there. He kind of felt bad about a little bit how cool he thought I was after he got to know me. You know what I'm
What did
saying?
he bust your head? What did he hit you in the head with?
A vase. I still got the marks in my head to this day.
Wow.
While I was asleep. The doctor said if I'd have been woke, I might have died. Because I might have reacted different and put my body in a different position. By me just taking the blow and not knowing it, that kind of saved me, he said.
That's scandalous. Would you say that you played the game fair?
Oh, yeah. Hell yeah.
Never backdoor nobody, nothing like that?
No, none of that type of shit.
When you look at the guys that did all the backdoor, telling, they got the money, they came home, and then you compare it to the guys that played the game fair, do you still look at it the same? Would you change it? Because it seemed like the guys who sold out they win.
That is how it seems, but how do they sleep at night? You know what I'm saying? What kind of rest is that for you? You know what I mean? The guys who telling and all that. Like, to me, the robbing and the killing, this gonna sound ruthless. That's just a part of the life that you choose in that game. But that telling shit, that shit's not cool. You know what I mean? That's just not cool to me. You know what I mean? It's not cool. You know what I mean? That's the one thing you don't want to do that. You know what I'm saying? And some of the most deadly people be telling. So I'm not saying that it's just the pussies who tell. It's a lot of killers who will tell on your ass too. You know what I mean? But I'm just saying that's the part that's not cool. You know what I mean? Everything else kind of goes. You know what I mean? It's
Right.
just but that telling shit, that's not cool.
I asked that because I know a guy. He got two dudes life without parole. Then he got another one life without parole on a different case. He come home, they give him cars, jewelry, money, drugs, and they know he's a stone cold killer. So I'm like, damn, does it really matter if you went out that way or not?
And that's how the game is now. But like I said, it just depends on how you want, what kind of man you are on the inside, really. You know what I'm saying? What do you stand for?
Mm-hmm.
Just as an individual, fuck with everybody else. What do you really stand for? You know what I'm saying? That's how how you want your son to see you, and how you want your grandkids and different people to talk about you. You know what I mean? Once you no longer here, that's how I see it. So, like I said, I do see that. Don't get me wrong, but like I said, we can't give them no points because they allowing you to do what you do. A lot of us, or a lot of people had to be slick when they was doing it to try to get away and this and that because they didn't have a get out of jail free card. You know what I mean? You got to
Right.
get out of jail free card. So what I mean, I don't respect your stats.
Did y'all have any pop? Did y'all have any popular women at that time? It was like Drake and all the drug dealers. They was like the social media groupies
Sack
today.
chasers, sack chasers.
Yeah.
We call them chasers. Sometimes we call them Super Bowl chasers, the good ones. Chasers.
Right.
That's what we call them. And them chasers, yeah. And a lot of the beef is behind them that people don't know. A lot of this beef shit be behind them. Meaning that you got the baddest bitch right now, but I get a bag and she started fucking with me, and now you trying to kill me because the bitch done left you for me. Shit like that. A lot of that shit is behind that.
If you could take anything
That's
back, would you?
I mean, shit. They say God had a plan. I guess this was his plan. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
God's plan. You know what I mean? So no. I mean, like I said, would I do shit different if in hindsight, it was always better. But you know what I mean? I'd have went to school and became an engineer or some shit because I'm good with math and shit. If I knew what I know now and had a little family and a wife picking fish and went fishing on the weekend and done all that type of shit. But that ain't how it turned out for me. My parents, they got in a situation where they got into drugs and shit. It wasn't nothing to eat at 12, 13 years old. Nothing to eat. So I had to figure out how to get some food. That was the start of it. It wasn't even about that. It was just about how am I gonna come with somebody fun? You couldn't even get a job. It's like you can't even get a job at 12, 13. So you can't even go work. The only job you can get then is a paper boy. And I used to steal the papers on Sunday and sell them in front of the church. But that was only on Sunday when it was worth something, when it was worth $1. And then after a while, you see this ain't enough money. Even though I'm getting $150 off stealing these papers, this ain't enough money to really feed myself. And then, like I said, 12 years old, I was feeding my mom, my brother, and me. And my brother was older than me, but he just was a gangbanger. He had no idea how to come up with $5.
Do you hold any resentment towards your parents?
Nope, because they love me. I love them. They still queens, like Pac said. You know what I mean? And kings, and I had a good life. Like my dad and my mom, they gave me a good life till I was like 11, 12, when crack first hit hard, and then we was doing good. Everything was gravy, and then my life changed overnight. It seemed like
Damn.
the next
Uh,
3, 4 years was like, wow, this is not how I thought it was gonna be playing out. My mother worked for a record company. This other thing, it wasn't even crack; it was free basic. My mother worked for a record company, so she was, when Janet Jackson came to Chicago, my mother was the one who took her around. When Jeffrey Osborne and Atlantic Star and all these groups came to Chicago. My mother took them around. My daddy, his people own one of the biggest black families, owning one of the biggest restaurants in Detroit. They had 4 locations, 2 on the west and 2 on the east, and all this type of stuff. So, I came from an upper middle class family up until that point. I remember when they was buying 8 balls, they was paying like $400 for an 8 ball back then. You know what I'm saying? You couldn't even get high off that shit if you didn't have money. But they got introduced into at parties. That's how they got the introduced. So you go to these major parties where the ballers is hanging out and they passing this shit around like it's cool. They didn't know what it was. It was new.
Just a couple more questions.
Take your time. I ain't tripping.
What is freebasing? I'm not sure what that is. What is that?
It was when you buy crack that's in powder form and go home and cook it. And now it's still the same thing as crack, but they called it freebasing because I guess it was it was before crack. You know what I mean? They cooked it at home. They got it in powder form, but they were just buying it in powder cooking. And they called that freebasing. But when they started something just cooked up already, they started calling it crack.
Oh.
So basically, I think it's the same thing. Maybe it's a little different way than the way they cook it or whatever. You know what I mean? But I got introduced to the game. I was a victim of it with freebase, but I got introduced to the game when they were selling crack. So all I know is about the crack in the powder and all that type of shit.
Cause you hear the stories about Richard Pryor blowing himself up, smoking it or some shit like that.
Yeah, they using torches and shit like that, and not knowing what they're doing. They using alcohol and 151 and all that type of shit to burn the shit, to put on the pipe to keep the shit lit. Yeah, that shit was crazy.
When you think about it, the government had to make it because it's like, who just comes up with the idea to put baking soda in this shit? And
they made it.
If you look at the process,
you got to think about it. Right
cocaine.
You got to understand. Right before that, we was having sit-ins at college. Right, we was trying to not sit at the back of the bus and trying not to have to go to the back of the restaurant. I'm talking about in the 60s when my parents came up. Right. They was having sit-ins at college campuses. They was going to college. They was being educated at a higher level than we educated at today. You get what I'm saying? So they had to come up with a plan to get them up out of college, to get their kids from going to college, to sidetrack this whole process. Right. And that's what their plan was. And they did it. It worked.
To this day.
It worked.
It did. Have you ever tried it? Because it was a social drug back then.
Hell no.
You ever sniffed a little?
I never did. No, I never did. Nothing but marijuana.
Let me ask you a few.
I don't even drink really. I have a drink once or twice a year. But I'm a stoner. I'm a pothead.
And you deal with marijuana, right?
Yeah.
Wait, can we talk about that or? Oh.
Yeah, well, it's legal out here. You know what I mean? Where I'm at right now. So yeah, we can talk about a little bit. But yeah,
How did you get into it?
When I first came home, I had family living on the West Coast, and I went out there to visit them, and they showed me the marijuana. And I didn't even smoke, but my main man did. So I was like, look, I got to get an ounce of that to take back to him. But that's how we is in Detroit and did shit like that. Even though I don't smoke, this is like some shit my guy would love. And this is my guy. So I bring it back to him. He smoking with everybody in the hood. They go crazy. They like, man, this was the Chronic or whatever. They go crazy. Because that's what Snoop, I got introduced to the Chronic. We used to call it GAN in Detroit. GAN. Who got the GAN? But this is hydroponics. This is indoor weed. This is, grown differently than any weed I'd ever seen in my life. So, like I said, I brought it back to him. And he said, man, this is the best shit I ever had. And everybody else was saying that. So it's like when you go back out there, get some more of that shit. You know what I mean? And I was like, oh, this is something right here. You know what I mean? This is something. So ever since then, I left everything else really alone and just focused on the marijuana. And as a scientist, not big numbers. You know what I'm saying? Just, small numbers, keep it under the radar.
Exactly.
Nothing, but they, like I said, it's legal anyway. Nothing they really can do nothing about, but, yeah.
You out in Seattle?
Yeah.
What made you move out there? Like, is it
totally
different? Oh, just the weed. Oh, okay.
First of all, a lot of people think that a lot of the weed is in Southern California or somewhere like
Facts.
that. But if you know anything, once you out here, you learn that all the weed comes from Humboldt County, which is Northern California. You get what I'm saying? So Northern California, Portland, and Seattle got the best weed in the country.
That don't make sense. That's crazy.
So they take the weed from Northern California to Southern. You get what I'm saying? That's where it's come from. That's where Burner and all the big guys, they from Northern California. Look where they from. Look who the cookies and all this. This is legal stuff. So I'm not telling them that everybody don't know. And I'm sure they even know the people. But yeah, everybody know that Burning them from Northern California.
But you would think Sunnyside has got the best tree right there by Mexico.
But see, that heat will not allow you to grow marijuana the right way. Northern California has a different climate. And because of the climate and the moisture in the air and the temperature and all that type of stuff, it thrives there where it wouldn't thrive in Southern California.
Is it hoods in Seattle?
Hell yeah. Yeah, they hoods. They like everywhere else.
Oh, is it more diverse though?
Yeah, it's way more diverse. You know what I'm saying? But it's hoods. You know what I mean? You know, I give them their respect. You know what I mean? They hoods. They active.
Is it a lot more peaceful out there though?
Yeah, yeah. The part I'm in, you know what I'm saying? But they got some parts that's not too peaceful.
Mm-hmm. How is the culture? How's the women out there? Let me ask that. I want to know that.
You won't go back home if you come out here. First of all, and I'm gonna tell you why. You're not in Detroit. You're in a box. You only really can talk to black girls, basically. You might look up and meet a Mexican, or you might see a few guys talking to white girls and another. But out here, you can talk to any girl you want. Any girl you want. I've lived with Asian girls. I got a baby, you know, who I've mainly been with by a white girl. You know what I'm saying, and all that type of stuff. So, like I said, you know, it's different, and the racism is different out here. It's not nearly the type of racism that you face up there. You know what I mean? And that's what was shocking to me. I'm like, man, I thought this would be more racist,
Facts.
and it's far less racist.
Do y'all get any good weather periods?
Yeah, during the summer and stuff. It's just the winter where it rains and snows a lot. Like Detroit get the snow, they get the rain. You know what I mean? So that's all it is. And that's only because it's close to the Canadian border. Anywhere close to the Canadian border gonna get that type of weather, rain or snow or this, that, and other. If you go across, that's the top of North America. So when you think about it, you know, you got, you know, Minnesota. And that's another you can do. Like Minnesota, Prince and Morris Day and all, and they mixed kids. That's one of predominantly a lot of mixed people. And in Seattle, they got a lot of mixed people too, and in Oregon too. And that's because the influence of Canada. The girls coming down from Canada, the white girls in Canada, they love black guys. So, you know, to where it's so many guys out here with white girls that the black girls be complaining that the black guys only date white girls.
Yeah, I hear that. Have you heard about the Moore Science Temple of America in the Michigan Department of Corrections?
Yeah, my brother did 27 years in there, so I know. Yeah, so I know all about the moles. I knew about the moles before I went in. Like I said, from growing up in Chicago, it's a lot of moles. And then when I went to Detroit, when they put me in the treatment center, it wasn't none but moles who was coming home from the penitentiary.
So you heard the rumors?
Oh yeah, I know all the rumors and all that type of stuff.
Is it like that?
Like they're a gang and they this, that, and the other, and some of them mess with boys and all that type of stuff. But that wasn't going on in the pen I was in. I'm gonna be honest.
That's what I was going to ask.